Welcome back to the Always Right podcast and our last one for the year of 2023. I'm excited.
Wow,
And
it
I'm
is.
your host, Carissa Delay with.
Fuzzy Vendera. I let
Oh,
my
yes,
hair. I
Jamie. You get
let.
to see Jamie in his all natural hair down.
Yeah. Well, I was just having a big beauty talk with Carissa because she knows all about hair and tattooing and all that. She's done
Oh, I just
several of
did,
my
I just
tattoos.
did finished a tattoo last night. You see it
Yeah, I
online?
did. Wow,
Scott liked it. Yeah.
that was amazing. Yeah, I liked it too. I'm pretty sure I seen he liked it.
Yeah.
Unless my
Yeah.
squirrel ran by and I was like, "Oh, that's great," and I forgot to click the like button. I never know. So.
So today's episode, we are going to essentially recap, several months of some of the things we're going to go over, like the poll from our episode 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I bet
Um,
you're so excited.
why? Because you know who won?
Yeah, it's because I didn't really tell any of my people about it because they know it's all about being up in the morning. They've written dozens of books on this. Get up at 5 a.m. Start your day right.
Well,
But
since we're just going to go ahead and bring that out, let's just talk about that one real quick because 50% of the people are most productive during the night. 25% are early morning people. The other 25% fall in the middle of the day.
man, I don't get it. Those people just if they'd start in the mornings, they would produce so much. Look at me, I'm living proof.
Yeah. Hilarious. Hilarious. So far, I am 2 for 2 on the Jamie versus Carissa.
I think the next one we ought to do one. Who can break glass, Jamie or Carissa? I know I'll
That's not
freaking win.
fair because
Okay,
technically I could go shatter a bunch of glass outside.
that's true.
But something that we went over in that episode, not the episode last week with Danny Black, but the episode before that where we talked about early birds and night owls, we had mentioned Unleash Your Creative Mindset. I do have that book. And so I
Wow.
couldn't find it on my shelf. I do have it on my shelf.
Oh, that looks cool.
Yes. Yeah, so this is definitely a good read because, I mean, it's not one of those things that you feel like you have to commit to a website like, hey, just for free, you can get all this information, but if you pay $199.95, we'll give you everything.
Yeah,
Or,
I could
or
never be like
12
that.
easy payments.
Yeah, I seen that today. I was studying some stuff for videos, and it was like, oh, for $27, and then I bought it and it's good. I watched the video, but then it's like, okay, but then you can get the other five for only 1,000. I was like, ugh.
Only.
So now Squirrel kicked in. So quick story: the Unleash Your Creative Mindset. When I wrote that, I tried to get Joe Vitale. Right afterwards, I tried to get him involved because he bought a bunch of my books, like Raise Your Voice. He studies like, man, we need to write a book together, something like Unleash Your Creative Mindset. I love you, Joe, but crickets. I didn't hear anything. So then a couple years later, I woke up and I wasn't even thinking that. I had an idea for Joe, and I said, dude, you've done all these albums. I got an idea for a book for you. It's called Mind Over Music, and you write it like how you produce so much music so quickly. And he says, nope, I'm not going to write it, but we will. We'll write it together. And so that's how that book came about. So eventually, my idea of wanting Joe to write with me came to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I see. I'm gonna put that on the set list, writing and co-writing, because I don't think I could be a very good co-writer.
Well, it's easier for me because it's not fiction. Funny I say that though, because
You read fiction with Daniel.
yeah, I did a lot of fiction with Daniel, but with going back with Daniel Middleton, and he'll tell you this, we would have little Skype sessions, but my brain is so alive, he would let me roll. I would just vomit scene, and then he would come in and kind of edit and help me clean it up. He was like, dude, you're so good at this, just go with it. And I just, at my 10-year-old grandson, the Tales of Spitfire is actually about him and like some dragon boy and all this, and there's 8 books, only 2 of them written, and I told him the other day, because he said, I got to read these for school. And, and I told my teacher about them. I said, good. How about you write the next 6 with me? He's like, what? I said, yeah. I said, we'll get on Skype. You'll help me plan out the scenes. You study the first 2 books, and then we'll write it together. And I'll handle the majority of it. But see, I can handle that type of writing.
That part, yes. Now I could do that because with Canvas, my oldest came up with the general plot twist. Sky, she came up with that, and so I just took off with the other details. So this was an inspiration from her, and I've just went.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, all right. But today we are also going to do a nice little kind of summary of our favorite books growing up. I thought, what better way to end the year and start a new year than to recap things that we've enjoyed prior to this? So, like our life, books that we liked as a kid, books we maybe have liked as teenagers, things that we remember that really stuck in our minds as our favorites. So,
You
do you
want to
want
go
to?
first? You want me to go first?
I think I've got mine on. I've literally got the books that I have from a kid.
You go right ahead then. I had to make a list because I was like, I've read so many books I couldn't remember.
So I have two books that stick out in my mind as the two that I read over and over again, or I had read to me. I do remember my mom reading Charlotte's Web to me when I was little, and then eventually I could read it myself. But I was actually a terrible reader when it came to wanting to read. But I loved the stories, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I was a skimmer. Like I could go through and get the gist and read really quickly. I remember one time I had to do for like the Pizza Hut pizza thing. Do you remember that? Where if you read so many books, you got a free pizza.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Are you that old?
No, yeah, I'm that old, but God, you just gave me. You keep going because you just gave me a
Write that
memory.
down. Forget that one. Yeah. So yes, you used to, if you read a book, you could write it down, and then every time you read a book, if you got like so many books in a month, you would get a free personal pan pizza. And I know they did that with my kids too. So it's kind of, they did that for a while. But I remember that. And my mom caught me on one. She's like, did you read that book? And this is like a 10-15 page book. Like I was like, I literally, the picture, it was illustrated. So the pictures pretty much told the story of traveling and all this stuff. And she's like, tell me what this book's about. And I like totally faked it. Plus I read the book. Because I was just like, I need about 30 books or whatever it was. I think it was like 20 in a month. But okay, back to the squirrel's nest. Let's get out of here. This book tells you a lot about like, look how worn this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So this literally has my name that my family still calls me, which is Chrissy, written with my handwriting on it.
Wow.
Yeah, my family calls me Chrissy because I was Chrissy until 10th grade, and that's when I changed to Carissa. Yeah, so I've got Chrissy like written all over this book. So funny. This thing got pictures in it. Like the
Wow.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I wish I still had some of the books from my childhood.
I've
That's
like
crazy.
these are like the two main ones, and then Charlotte's Web. I love Charlotte's Web. Let's see if I
love the cartoon. I never read the book.
Oh gosh, I remember the movies were so good, but I mean these are books that I remember actually reading. I remember reading. I don't have this book, but I remember reading the book Sounder. Where the Red Bird.
I don't remember that one.
I barely remember. It was like a family going through hard times, and I think the dad had to steal a ham or something, and got in trouble. I don't remember, but there was a dog involved, so I don't remember. I remember the cover very vividly, but not much of the story. What are you laughing? You have 2 water bottles today?
I've drank from 4 of them in the last 30 seconds.
I saw these random water. I'm like, what the heck?
I plotted this out just for you.
What? Oh. Like your doomsday supply of water?
Oh my gosh, if I wouldn't have giggled, you maybe wouldn't have caught on.
No, really, I caught it when this big white thing came in the screen. I'm like, I know he started out with a copper water bottle. Like,
I was like, when I did this, I thought maybe she'll notice. And so I drank, I put it down, I thought, well, I'll grab this one really quick.
Well, I saw the copper one, but then I was like, wait, what?
Well, in my mind, I thought she's thinking, oh, that's his room temperature water, that's his tea. So I thought, well, I better pull out the big guns.
Yeah. And I saw that white one. I was like, what?
All right. I apologize that you have to deal with me. That's
okay. And then something that I kind of took a stint of not really being into reading as much. Like I was drawing more. So I never got into reading stuff that was necessarily fiction. I got into more non-fictional stuff, like reading about different, civilizations or whatever, and look things up. But I did like quick things like this, which my oldest daughter, she also understands.
So, all right.
Okay, so those are the ones I really remember from my childhood, and then up until Sky was with me, like when I was pregnant with the twins, and we'd read the graphic stuff of Calvin and Hobbes. We read that stuff all the time, every night. And then I got into Dan Brown, and then it wasn't until she read and was watching the Twilight books that she's like, "Hey, will you watch this with me?" And then after we watched that together. I was like, "You have the books." So I started reading. Then I started getting back into reading and stuff again.
So I wonder if all that reading shaped who you are as an author today.
Well, yeah, because I feel like my chapters are short like these. I don't like long chapters. I like shorter chapters. And I like chapters that feel like a movie where you're changing scenes every chapter versus
No,
changing.
I like that too. I think that's why we came up with the movie books and TV books idea. I just love the boom, 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 just moving, moving, moving.
Yeah.
So sweet. No, I
All right,
love
now
it.
you. Let's talk about your kid.
Well,
Your
hold on.
kids
Before we talk
have-
about me, I want to ask you though: are you still reading? Is there anything that you're reading now?
So the last two books that I read. Oops, I have them over here. So the last two books that I read, not fiction. This one is a pretty decent sized one. How to Change Your Mind. So this one's How to Change Your Mind, What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us About the Consciousness, Dying, Addiction, Depression, and Transcendence.
Cool.
By Michael. He's the guy that inspired the Netflix show on this.
There's a Netflix show on it.
Yeah, his whole this Michael Pollan guy. He works with a lot of big people, and they talk about a lot of the Harvard experiments and stuff, the psychedelic experiments and stuff. I read that one. And this is the one that Dr. Daughtry and I were talking about. This one is very good.
And what is it about?
This is the witch craze.
I know.
Basically, it was the evolution of how it came to being witches.
Yeah.
How it went from being people who were against the church and
heretical.
trying to find.
Is it heretical? No,
yes,
maybe.
Heretics.
Okay. Yeah, heretics.
I knew it started with an H. It's like acronym and anagram. Remember that was a really brain twister. That episode. This is not right.
Good. Yeah, I got to get back. I'm reading, but I'm reading my own stuff to plot so I can finish. And of course, I'll dive into it because it'll lead up to my reading. I started really young. My Portsmouth, Ohio, down in the Boneyfiddle area, there used to be this building, used bookstore, buy, sell, trade. My mom and my stepdad back then, both avid readers. And they would drag me down there. I was like, oh, I'm so sick of this every week because they're always reading books and trading them, reading books and trading them. And I started looking around in the kids section, and I remember I loved James Bond movies. I loved Roger Moore, which was really the kind of the second James Bond. Moonraker, but the earlier movies like Live and Let Die. I just thought he was charismatic. He was funny. I loved all the gadgets he had. So I found these books, and I wish I could remember them. It's driving me nuts. Maybe somebody on this podcast will be like, "Oh, I know what you're talking about." There was a series of book back in the 70s that was like a teenage James Bond type character. There's a whole series of them. They're like 100 pages long each. They were for kids, and it was just like James Bond as a teenager. But I cannot remember his name.
Have you not Googled this? Have you not used this modern technology?
No, let's Google. What's modern technology? I haven't even thought about it. Anyways, that led me into reading and getting into the library. And luckily for me, like 10, 11, 12 years old, I would go to the YMCA to cut grass with my buddies. We'd save a little money. We'd run and we'd go to the pool. And the library was right next door. We're like, we ain't got nothing to do. There's a whole kids section. Let's go there. And maybe I was 11 or 12 this one summer, just like you with the Pizza Hut. They had a contest, and you had to read like 30 books in 30 days or something. And we tackled a couple books. I was like reading all night long, and then we caught on. It's like 100, 150 page books. I'm like, wait a minute. There's a section for toddlers over there, and those books are like 30 pages long. We started reading these, the pictures, and doing them, and we're like, I got 5 books in today. And then
you're like me with the literal picture books.
Well, we got shut the F down because that librarian said, Jamie, John, this does not count. You can't read a 3-year-old's book that's only 10 pages long and count it as an official entry. So, needless to say, we didn't win. But around that time, I remember we went to a little newsstand called Richard's News, and I was into books, and so
Mhm.
I never really read fantasy. I did have all these memories are coming back. I did have these books, and I just found them lately, like The Witch of Firetop Mountain. I know I'm saying that wrong. They were like choose your own adventure, and they were great. And you could read as like if you want to open the door, go to page 37. If you don't want to open the door and pass it, go to page 14. So you had to choose your. Oh, they're great. The Warlock. I'll find them and we'll mention them in this podcast because I got a couple of them around here somewhere. But you could read this book dozens times, and you would come up with a different ending. Like, oh, you get halfway through, oh, you were killed. So it's
Well,
like
that's
playing Dungeons
interesting.
and Dragons. Go ahead.
That's interesting because there's a Netflix series, like it's called Kaleidoscope, I think. And if you watch it in a different order, like it changes the ending.
Okay, that's crazy. That's what this is. I'm trying to
And I'm
see if
like,
I can find.
but the thing is that when you watch it in the order I'm like, if I change this up, I'm still gonna think the same thing. I'm so confused.
Here's one of them. The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. It was written by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston, and it was for a series called Fighting Fantasy. And there were dozens of books in this series, so I've read 4 or 5 of them. You can get them as a nap now and read them. I love these. So that's where my fantasy began. But I remember being at Richard's News and I seen this cover, and it was for The Elfstones of Shannara by Terry Brooks, and
Which
it
you've
just had.
mentioned, yeah.
Oh yeah, he had his palm was out and it was glowing blue, and that was the Elfstones. There was a troll next to him, a dwarf, and a sword, and it just pulled me in. So I got hooked with that. I was into fantasy. I went back, was reading his first book before that, and then I was into monsters too. So like the movie The Howling came out. Absolutely love that movie, but they made a series of books on it too. So I read all those other werewolf books like The Wereling, Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold, which is another series from Terry Brooks, which is really cool. It's like this lawyer in America, and he's tired of life, and he can buy this Magic Kingdom for $1 million, and he's like, nah, this is stupid. They let him put a deposit down, and he goes to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and he follows this path, and the next thing you know, he's in another dimension, and there's a kingdom. But the kingdom's in shambles, so it's a lot of work. Great series. Then I kind of got back into the monsters, like Christine. I got into, Christine. What some of the other books Stephen King did back then. Cujo, read Cujo.
Tommy
Carrie.
Knockers. Tommy
Yeah,
Knockers.
I never after that. I never got into those after the first few. I read 3 or 4, and then I kind of got out of it. As I got older, I like playing with pendulums. I love the stuff you write. I was into pyramids, so I read a lot of Edgar Casey. I read books on that type of stuff, and I finally landed in being a singer, like trying to consume anything I could find on singing. And I would order books like back then. It wasn't as accessible as it is now, so I'd find a book from like 1882 on singing that existed, but it was at a library in New York, and then you could have your library send it to you, and you could
Right.
keep it for 30 days and read it. So, and then over the years, mainly Terry Brooks, Cinda Williams Chima. She's another fantasy author. I absolutely love her, and that's it. And I'm kind of like you are now. I'm a skimmer, and I hate that, but
Yeah.
I think society's kind of done that to us. We're like always in a rush. And so I'll skim a book, and a lot of it I study a lot for videos and whatnot. So I'm skimming, but I'm trying to slow back down and get into another book series. Luckily, Terry Brooks has another series. I'm waiting for the 3rd book to be released because I don't like reading a book and then having to wait a year. It drives me absolutely insane. If I would do that, I would have to go back and start again. And Terry Brooks, over the years, he has like 30 books plus in the Shannara series. And if I knew a new book was coming out, I'm nuts. I would have to go all the way back and read 20-something books to get caught up to be in the story.
Like
So
you didn't miss anything.
I know, yeah, it's exactly what it is, because I've tried that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't get into this. What? I don't even remember that happening from before.
So a lot of people will do that. So that's kind of why I really want you to finish a series, and I'm hoping we're pushing to finish Age of the Sigil, so that one is complete.
Yep.
Because
when you sneeze, you miss the ending. Bless you, bless
He's
you.
allergic to unfinished series.
You plan that. No,
Yeah.
that's my plan. Sigil, what I'm doing now is I'm getting my grandson involved, and he's 10. But I wrote this series called The Tales of Spitfire,
Yeah, you
and
said you
it's
were going to have him. You said that you were going to have
I'm gonna
him.
we'll probably do a thing on that says like another podcast on it. But I'm pulling him in because he said to me a couple weeks ago, he's like, during Christmas break, my teacher said I have to read something. I think I want to read those 2 Spitfire books. I'm like, all right, well, I'll read them with you and I'll take notes. I said I got a better idea. Since you're one of the main characters in the book, why don't you help me write the rest of them? And he's
Yeah.
like, how am I going to do that? I said, hey, don't worry, I'll do the bulk of the writing, but we'll get together on Skype and we'll go over the scenes. And after you read the first 2 books, and whatever scenes you think, I'll write into the book.
That's
So
cool.
that'll be that, but I can simultaneously, can't even talk. I'm so excited about writing. I can simultaneously write 2 books.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who love to read series, but will not start a series unless it's complete.
Yeah.
I hear that so like I don't want to start a series if I know there's another book coming. So I want they don't want to have to go back and reread. So and I get that. So we got to start finishing your series. We got to start finishing.
I know it's what, and this is like a procrastination. It's not writer's block. It's not that I'm bored. It's that I'm being kind of lazy because I'm overwhelmed with
Well, maybe you
teaching
should stay up
voice.
late then.
Or I could get up really early and start them earlier. I could just start
Apparently
getting
that's
up
not working
4.
for you.
It's only not working for me because lately I've been getting up and I'm like, and I sit there in a chair for an hour and I'll work on. I need to edit a video for Instagram or something. So I just need to reprioritize. But yes, I can write books fast, so it's not an issue. Age of the Sigil is coming. I promise.
Okay, I'm gonna stay on you. I'm going to stay on you. I mean, I'm taking the focus off of me because I haven't finished a book since 2018.
Yeah, but yeah, I know. But listen, I'll tell you a secret. The last 4 books I put out were Shifters 2, Order 5, Season 3, Spitfires 1 and 2 in the last 2 years. Those books, I can't believe I'm telling everybody this. I had them completed 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, but with COVID happening, I was like, I don't want to push them out. And then I thought, no, I need to finish these.
That would have been a great time to push them out. People were at home.
I know. I don't know. Well, I was so in with my other partner, Claude LaRoche. We were finishing Colors of Your Voice. So I was like consumed by that every waking hour in between teaching voice. But there's no excuse. That is no excuse, people. You don't find time to write. You make time to write.
Yeah.
So
well, I get that, and like I live my books inside my head like throughout the day. Like I'm constantly thinking stuff, even though if I'm not technically writing, but like I'm doing the building my tattoo business right now. Since we just opened it in the past several weeks. So I mean, I'm just trying to navigate that and being at a new salon, and so so I haven't really taken the mental time to sit down and write. Plus, it's the holidays just coming through and everything. I have to wrap a lot of presents. That's exhausting.
we don't even wrap presents anymore. I get the biggest buy. I remember, I'm so horrible. I bought my grandson a bike. We bought our grandson a bike one year. It's like, how are we going to wrap this? I'm going to go down to that dollar store and I want to get that big bag that you put a bicycle in. So that's what we do.
I wouldn't wrap a bicycle anyways. I just put a big bow on it.
That's true. But even the little things, I'm like, I don't know. It's not bah humbug. It's just like, I fill sacks full and carry them things and say, here you go. Much quicker.
Yeah. Like my daughter mentioned doing a naked Christmas. I'm like, no, that would make me feel weird. We're not actually naked, but naked presents.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
No, we're the
presents. You didn't tell me you lived at a nudist colony.
I mean, it is Florida. There's always a Florida man on the cover of some magazine.
Indeed.
So, okay. What's the last couple books that you've read beside that are not your own?
I finished up the Terry Brooks series. He put out, I got some, how you said sometimes you get out of writing. There was probably the last 5 or 6 books I got off course. I was just so busy. There was like I can't even remember off the top of my head what the names were, but the last 2 trilogies he wrote, and one wasn't even really a Shannara trilogy. It was in that world, but it was about some other characters in that whole fantasy world. So I knocked them out. couple years ago, I started the last Cinda Williams Chima series. She started a new trilogy, and I read the first one, and here's what happens. The next book wasn't out, so I lost interest. And now, when I have time, after I finish Sigil and some Spitfire books, I'll probably tackle her, Cinda Williams Chima, and go back and reread that book and go on. But I was kind of pissed, too, because she killed off the main character from the previous trilogy.
Are you
And
giving
like,
spoilers out?
oh, did I just let spoilers out? Okay.
If someone was reading that, they would not now be like,
Okay.
ah.
Maybe I'm just messing with you. You never know. Yeah,
Oh no,
that
it's
kills me because you'll be on Facebook. Don't tell me any spoilers from this movie. You guys are making. I haven't even had a chance to see it, and I'm like, then don't be on this page.
okay. First of all, this movie's been out for 20 years, so if you haven't watched it, your fault.
Oh, that's true. Well, then that book from Cinda's been out for about 5, 6, 7 years. So if you ain't read, it's your fault.
Yeah.
All right. Wait a minute. I don't know which one to do now. All right. I got it.
I didn't even bring a drink up here today. I already had my
I'm
coffee.
taking care of you. You're covered over here.
Yeah, you have like, oh my gosh, so many. All right, so to end this episode, we want to thank our listeners first of all, but we have got. I'm going to look here. Double check. I'm going to go through the social media of our followers because we've kind of, even though we've only been out for a few months, we have about a
boatload.
Oh my gosh, why doesn't it tell me how many followers are on here? Like I have to go into my own, like
13. Was that right?
No. Hold on. I've got the analytics. I've got the analytics for everything.
Will you tell me?
All time. All right. All time we have. Let's see here. We've had 234 plays. We have 18 followers on Spotify.
Woohoo! I was only 5 off.
Yeah. Then I know on YouTube I think we have 16 subscribers so far. We'll have 18 episodes, and then
and we have so many ideas too.
Oh my god!
Pay attention to other socials too. I'm sure Chris and I will be making videos and posting little tips, tricks, and tactics to help you with your writing, and it will always tie back into episodes of Always Right podcast.
Yeah, and we're not your typical writers. We're not like the word staunchy is used often in this podcast.
Yeah.
But we're not the staunchy type. I mean, you could see when you look at our YouTube channel or our Spotify, that Jamie has long hair. He's a rock band type person. He's a vocal coach. He's not someone who's like, oh, you must do it.
Yeah. I was trying to give me a mustache. I forgot I already had one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do tattoos and I do hair, aside from writing. So we're not your typical like literary what's the word besides staunchy? Snobs?
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? I remember reading some songwriting books back in the day and even going to workshops in Hollywood when I lived there. And it was like, okay, so you have to follow these exact 10 steps. Number 1, I don't think we've ever been like that. We're more organic. Even in the books I've written about writing, it's not like totally that anal. Or analytical. Those are analytical. We'll just combine the words.
Analytical.
Yeah, analytical.
It's a southern mix of a word if I've never heard one before.
Especially with my accent, it kind of helps bring it to life.
Oh my gosh, you sound like John.
But I grew up with him. John. I grew up with him, so what do you expect? And my best friend, he lives right across the river in Kentucky. So I have it's kind of there if I want it. So it's the end of the year. But what about you? Why don't you look back? What have you read as a child? Not about you, Chris, about all of you watching
I just went over this.
No, you're like, wait a minute. I win these contests. No. What did all of you read growing up?
Yes.
Because as you were talking, you were like, man, all these memories are popping up because of what you were saying about your childhood and the Pizza Hut and everything. I was like, wow, I forgot all about that. Mm-hmm. So you may find that you, as a writer, you draw on inspiration from a child and you totally forgot about it. So you may want to go back and read some of those.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's something that we would like to hear. Comment, email us, share a story. Like sometimes if you would share a story, we will put this on the podcast. Like, oh, we heard from, blah blah, and they said this about, whatever, and we'll be more than happy to put it on here. If you want to email us, which is at our email, alwaysrightpodcast at gmail.com, and make sure it's the always right as you see in the title of this episode, so I don't have to keep spelling it out, because when I spell it out I get tongue twisted
Yep.
and I'm like, always
Yeah.
right. You can follow us on all our socials, but the best place to find our socials is just to go to alwaysrightpodcast.com, go to the landing page and click one of the icons. It'll take you to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It'll take you to all of our things, and you could just kind of keep up with stuff of that on there. Even though we're not the greatest at all of, like, I don't get on Twitter. Twitter's not my. Oh,
Is it back to okay?
No, it's still X. It's Twitter. People know it's Twitter.
Twitter.
Elon calls it X.
Yeah.
I feel like when I say I'm on X, I'm like, I'm on ecstasy. No, I'm not on X. That's something I never did. I didn't do X, so that's fine.
Neither did I. So some of you are looking like,
no, but
okay.
I feel like when I say X, that's what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm talking about that. So I'm like Twitter. We have Threads, we have Instagram, TikTok.
I see 15-year-old kids that are just blowing up, and I'm like, hey, I was on MythBusters. Can't you just give me some follows?
Right?
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. Well, and that's the same thing with me doing hair, which I don't really promote my hair because I do hair. I have enough hair clients. But with tattooing, I have to take pictures. I'm not a photographer at all. I have a really cool photographer client that does a lot of work, like around the country, out of country, all this stuff. I should probably have her give me a lesson on how to take pictures of my tattoos, because when I post tattoos, there's glares and it makes things look wonky. Sometimes when the shading hits the light, and I'm like, how am I supposed to do this?
Because you probably need a certain lighting setup in your room. I suck at it because I have a skin disease, so my face is always red, and I know if I would adjust the lighting a little better, it would change the temperature color of the lighting. It will look better. No, there's tons like Facetune. There's stuff you can do in CapCut to change saturation.
I've seen those. But anyway, I'm not worried about it because I'm not trying to be Ink Master. I'm not trying to be like whatever. I would rather be a best-selling author than an Ink Master.
Yeah, but you are an Ink Master to me. This is like, your tattoos are freaking awesome.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, hope you enjoyed the podcast so far in this year. We got so much coming in 2024.
Yes. So this is the last episode for 2023, and we will see you next time. And we want you to always be writing, and we will hear from you, and you'll hear from us next week in 2024. So until then, next year, we will, I don't know, we're going to
do another podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna do another podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know,
in a year.
Squirrels have jumped into my my house.
It's I'm infectious is what it is.
Yeah. I was like, all right. Anyways, thanks for listening. As always, I'm your host, author Carissa DeLay, and this is my co-host
Jamie Vendera, and I will see you next year.
All right. Peace out.